Hey everyone, this is Max Kavanaugh here. I'm about 2 weeks late on this whole podcast reaction thing. So for this one, we're reacting to 2 podcasts, episodes 2 and 3. And let's open it up and begin.
I couldn't believe it. According to the document I was looking at, John, the boy who would go on to become the Master Chief, died 41 years ago. My protagonist, the greatest hero of our time, was dead at 6. It was a major discrepancy, and I needed to find a way to fix it. I'm Benjamin Giroux, and this is Hunt the Truth.
Ooh. Nice theme. They changed it a little bit.
Continue to hold.
If you ever happen to obtain sufficient clearance to call the Office of Naval Intelligence, you'll be on hold for at least an hour. If you ever happen to get a call from them, you will also wait an hour. And in the end, they never unblock the video, so you just end up talking to a really crisp insignia. I am waiting to talk with Michael Sullivan, hoping he can help me with my little
Michael Sullivan!
records problem.
Continue to hold.
If you've seen Forward Unto Dawn, then you know who he is.
And it's been
He's one of the surviving Marines.
85 minutes.
85
Michael Sullivan,
minutes.
also known as Sully, works for the ONI in public relations. If it seems odd to you that the most secretive agency in our government has a PR department, you're not alone. But that's not something I'd mention to them. Besides, Sully had hooked me up with the assignment in the first place. I was grateful for the opportunity.
Office of Naval Intelligence. Public Relations.
Ben.
Hi, Sully. Hey, yeah, thanks for taking my call.
Absolutely. How are the sources?
Up until this point, I'd had no problems with the story. All my facts had been lining up nicely, but now
Love it.
I had an obscure document from the far reaches of the galaxy that listed John as deceased. This contradicted everything. I needed Sully to make it make sense, and thankfully, he did just that.
Welcome to the outer colonies. Nothing makes sense out there.
No, I know. It's just, I just want to make sure that I button up all the details.
And that's what you're doing. Look, Ben, it's the far reaches of space out there, and the planet you're talking about was glassed to hell. You know just as well as anybody that if there are any local records, they're a mess.
Okay, so I felt a little stupid. Sully was right. It's a real problem in the outer colonies. Planets destroyed by glassing have bad records. Every researcher knows this, and every researcher knows that questioning that fact is standard fodder for conspiracy theorists.
It's a cover-up. That's Government Secrecy 101.
That's a message I received last week from a man named Meshach Maradi. He's one of many truthers out there who've come out of the woodwork since I started doing this story. Apparently, he heard I was investigating the Master Chief.
What kind of name is
Meshach
that?
seems less ridiculous than most of the characters who've been filling up my inbox, but he's definitely been the most persistent. He's left me a message every day for the past 2 months. I never respond, but I did find the timing of his last message pretty funny.
Let me guess. The government is telling you that the records don't make sense because the planet was glassed, right? That's what they tell you.
Technically, Meshach was right. That was what the government was telling me. But unfortunately for Meshach's theory, it was true. Glassed planets have bad records. John's childhood friend, Ellie Bloom, has dealt with this reality her whole life. I recalled what she'd said in her interview.
I mean, it can be hard enough out here trying to do business between planets that haven't been glassed. There's so much upheaval. Keeping track of personal records, financial documents, medical records, it's a total crapshoot.
In retrospect, I'd probably been asking for this kind of hiccup. Getting cute with the research, opening up a rat's nest of old paper records, and for what? All I dug up from slogging on my own was a few hazy kindergarten stories from Ellie and a nonsensical death record. But things were looking up. Sully had arranged a face-to-face interview with ONI Vice Admiral Gabriela Dvorak. That not only got me off-world, but it was on board the newest Autumn-class heavy cruiser, the UNSC Under the Breach. Got a private shuttle up, full luxury.
I've heard of
He
that.
had me riding in style. When I came aboard, Dvorak even greeted me personally. Now, civilians aren't normally allowed on board an active-duty ship, let alone given this sort of attention.
Please, call me Gabriella.
Okay. This was not the kind of hospitality I was used to. What brings you way out here?
Work.
She told me she was on a detachment and in the neighborhood. I guess I lucked out. The white glove treatment continued too. Captain's mess, officers' quarters, the whole thing. By the time we finally got to her office for the interview, Dvorak could have said anything and I'd have been thrilled. But she's the real deal, and she jumped right into it.
It was that finally moment. After all the fighting was done, I was helping lead all the prisoners out of the containers.
As a lieutenant in the UNSC, Gabriella not only took part in the ground operations that freed John and countless others from the rebel labor camps in Elysium City, but she remembered the 13-year-old as well. She described the liberation.
When you saw them, what had been done to them, you realized who you'd been fighting to save. The aftermath of it, it was ugly.
She sounds
Everyone
like
was
Halsey.
streaming out into the daylight, squinting, limping, just gray and fragile and sickly. Their backs were hunched, all their eyes just staring at the ground. I mean, they looked dead.
That's when she saw John.
He was sticking out like a sore thumb. In the middle of all of this just beaten humanity, there's this tall, young kid walking toward me, towering over the others, his shoulders back, his eyes forward, and when he passed me, he looked right at me. Looked in my eyes. Yeah, I mean, that doesn't sound like much, but that eye contact coming from someone in that moment who'd been in that circumstance was shocking. He looked malnourished and dehydrated like everybody else, but he was so young.
What did his face look
Whatever
like?
had broken all these people, it hadn't broken him.
Yeah, but what did his face
In
look
the
like?
aftermath, Dvorak remained stationed in Elysium City, working in the refugee camps. From the first day, John stepped up to help Gabriella with her duties. She came to know him well over the next several months.
There was a point when he told me about his parents, that they'd been abducted along with him. He didn't say much, but they didn't make it.
Her understanding was that it had gotten ugly in there. They died a couple days apart, a few weeks before the liberation, and John was there when it happened. On the rare occasion when John opened up about this, Dvorak says it was memorable.
He would get this look on his face when he talked about it. It's hard to describe. I'd see it on him other times, too. He seemed to feel the weight of all that had happened, but still, he was calm. Not angry, not desperate, just resolute. He was a remarkable young man.
Like so many people at the time in Elysium City and throughout this region of the galaxy, John had lost his home, his family, everything. People packed up whatever they had left, got out of town, and most never looked back. But Dion Govender, John's boxing coach, said many of them found a way to get some measure of closure.
Yeah, definitely. We all got separated and spread out across the planet and the colonies, but some of us were able to cobble together a list of names. I don't know, kind of a memorial that grew longer as we got more information. Yeah, I remember seeing John's parents' names on the list early on, but not John. After he missed that last practice, never saw him again, but I remember thinking, that's okay. You know, as long as I never see his name on this list, that's okay. And I never did.
His will to survive left an impression on then-Lieutenant Gabriella Dvorak as well.
I think John just didn't want to be a victim anymore. I remember him telling me he was going to enlist. He said he was going to make a difference. I've never been more sure of another person than I was of him when he said that.
Out of the chaos of war, from the rubble, a young John was able to forge a purpose for himself. A purpose that would drive him to become the hero the galaxy would one day need him to be. This is the kind of turn in a story that gives me patriotic goosebumps. I was feeling genuinely moved on my trip back home. When I got there, though, Ellie Bloom was going to ruin all that for me.
Hey, I just wanted to follow up with you about your story. I'm really confused.
Okay, what's...
Remember how I said I was going to tell my friend Katrina about it?
Katrina was that other girl in John's neighborhood, the third wheel in Ellie's childhood stories of playing with John. Ellie had moved off planet in 2517, but Katrina had stayed.
She said that John was dead. He died when he was 6.
Wait, what? What?
John was perfectly healthy, but then he just started wasting away. At first they thought maybe it was some autoimmune thing, and then they thought it was something else, and then something else, and then meanwhile he's getting all these tests, but the doctors couldn't figure it out at all, and his parents were panicking. It sounded horrible.
Then John died. Just like that. I had no idea what to make of this. Ellie seemed convinced.
Flash
though.
cloning.
So
Oh
I got
my
her to
god.
Put me in touch with her friend
Figure it
Katrina.
out.
Katrina wouldn't let me record the interview, but this woman was adamant. I wanted to discount what she was saying, but she seemed to remember it so vividly, providing extensive detail, I couldn't ignore it. As far as this person was concerned, John was dead. Before I could even begin to wrap my head around that claim, though, here was the kicker from Katrina. John's parents were alive and well in Elysium City all the way up until Katrina left the planet in 2528, 4 years after their supposed death. She was wrong. She had to be thinking of someone else, or she was lying. Why would she lie, though? I had to admit she seemed pretty convincing, but it didn't make sense otherwise.
Flash cloning.
I still thought I could fix the story, though. Make the pieces fit. Make it make sense. But what I didn't realize was that this crack was only the beginning, and the whole ugly mess was about to split open. Please join me for the next episode of Hunt the Truth.
Seriously, if you haven't seen Halo Legends, then you don't know what's going on. If you haven't seen the trailer for Halo 4 with a young John, you don't know what's going on. Flash cloning. That's what they used for the Spartan program. To hide evidence that they've been taken. And of course, the clones would die at a young age. Anyone who knows about the Halo lore knows what flash cloning is. So anyways, that episode was pretty interesting, but a few things were missing. They never describe what John's face looks like. Seriously, we need to know what Master Chief's face looks like. Come on, it's been what? I don't know. 14 years since the first Halo. 16 years since its announcement. Seriously, we need to improve our information stuff. Anyways, now for the next episode. Episode 3.
Ray, tell me you got something.
Yeah, I do.
Ray Kurzig is a good friend of mine and a completely emotionless robot. I mean that in the best way. As an independent analyst, he's the most efficient and resourceful researcher I know. That's why I'd sicked him on this story a few days earlier. I needed to debunk the claims of Ellie's friend Katrina. He was in the area on business, so he took the time to come down and meet with me at my home office. So Katrina told me that John died at 6 years old.
Right,
And his parents, who supposedly died in a rebel prison, were still alive years later.
right.
No, this woman's ruining my story, Ray. Tell me why she's lying.
Well, she's not.
Ray had found copious financial records indicating that John's parents were not just alive past 25-24, but working and paying their bills. They died in 25-24. Come on, man.
Well, sorry. Their employers and a preponderance of local merchants disagree with you. I mean, the central repositories were really thin, but you dig through enough mirrored archives, it all pops up. The records are there.
Ray swiped through document after document corroborating this. He even showed me medical insurance claims for a pediatric autoimmune specialist in 2517. Exactly when Katrina said John got sick. I was laughing, but I didn't find any of it funny. I'm Benjamin Giroux, and this is Hunt the Truth.
Continue to hold.
Jeez. Come on.
Office of Naval Intelligence. Public Relations.
Finally. Hey, Sully.
Tell me good things, Ben.
It was disconcerting to be talking to the ONI insignia again, but I started positive. The story was going really well. But that little data problem. The death record? It was back. I was hoping Sully would smooth it out for me.
Ben, I thought we talked about this. Glassed planets have bad records.
No, I know. I just,
Glassed
it's not
planets
just the
have bad
records,
records, Ben.
actually.
This is colonial
no,
journalism
listen, Sully, if
101.
you could. People are
you
saying.
serious with this?
People
Glassed
are saying.
planets
Listen,
have-
do glassed people have bad records?
Ben, are you recording right now?
Yes. That was my cue to stop recording. The off-the-record conversation was brief. Sully asked me if I wanted to do the next interview. What he meant was, do you want to keep this job? I said yes.
Your call is over.
Well, as you can see, I've pretty much permanently stationed myself on this beach.
That was my next interview.
Attire here.
Jacob Walker,
Hope it doesn't
retired
offend you.
Navy. He lives in a beach community way out on Castellaneta. The first thing I noticed about Walker when he answered my call was that he wasn't wearing a shirt, which made us both laugh. He explained that after 28 years of service, as far as he was concerned, it was all R&R all the time. I couldn't argue with that philosophy. He slipped on a t-shirt and I asked him about the Master Chief.
Oh, hell yeah, John. You bet your ass I remember him.
Walker's career began 3 decades ago with Naval Force Reconnaissance School at Black Sea. Little did he know boot camp would turn out to be something he'd never forget. Walker was there alongside the young man who would become the Master Chief. The gravity of that was not lost on him.
I mean, they pushed us real hard, but John, well, he'd push us even harder, not even trying. You screwed up, you didn't know whether to be more scared of the CO or John.
At first, though, Walker was unimpressed.
Oh, no, man. I remember, I think it was the first week, there was a lot of talk. We were outside the mess tent, me and these other 2 jackasses getting into it, chests all puffed up and talking about being cold-blooded killers and stepping on necks, all that. I wanted to be in leadership one day. And, of course, I was 19 and jacked as hell, so way I figured I only had so much competition. Meanwhile, there's this quiet nobody from nowhere standing on the fringes looking at the horizon. John. Yeah, first I thought he was 20, 21. He was a big dude. Turns out he was only 16. I mean, that kid wasn't even on my radar.
Soon, though, Walker says all that machismo fell to the wayside and a real leader emerged in John.
Training exercises, whoever finished last got the brunt. I mean, last one in on a 20-mile, you're walking back while we catch a Pelican dropship. And that there's some downright lethal terrain, too. Reach is, well, it was a tough planet. But John, man, he took lead every time. A lot of risk and responsibility. Didn't have to, but, hell, he did it. And then halfway in, he'd start to hang back, and help the stragglers. You're injured, whatever. He'd be right there helping you out.
And then without fail, Walker says, John always made sure he came in last and took the punishment.
He made us all want to follow his lead. Try harder and help each other. I mean, we're supposed to do that, but nobody ever really wanted to until then. Anyway, we did it. But taking the hit for the group, now that was John's thing. I only challenged him for the honor once. I'd never made that mistake again.
Walker's in his early 50s now, but he seemed lit up with the energy of a much younger man. It seemed the will that he and the other recruits had, in a sense, borrowed from John so many years ago, was still inspiring Walker. It was remarkable. He knew John, lived with him for months, yet to him, John still seemed to be an almost mythical character.
What he was able to do, getting back on his own like that in the pitch black, no nav equipment, man, he was inhuman.
That kid was a monster, all right? They all were.
Anthony Petrosky, a retired orbital drop shock trooper I found through Mishak Maradi. Yes, that Mishak Maradi, the truther who's been messaging me for months. And yes, I was pretty desperate for leads. We'll leave it at that. But Petrosky was definitely not on Sully's list of approved sources, so I went off-grid and contacted him through Chatternet. Here he is, talking about his only encounter with John.
The kid was a freak. Thanks,
Can you be more specific?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. Me and a bunch of guys were sparring in the gym one day, and there was this young kid there. I mean, I guess you could call him a kid. He was pretty jacked, but his face looked 12, maybe 13.
12 or 13? After enlisting, John didn't even finish boot camp until at least 17. Petrosky had to be wrong about his age, but I let it go.
Anyway, I guess he was acting tough when one of the guys asked his name. He told him, but he kind of gave him attitude, right? So people start mouthing off. Next thing I know, CPO orders the kid and 4 of the guys into the ring because they were supposed to
Hold on, Anthony. Wait, You're telling me that the CPO ordered 4 soldiers to fight a high school kid?
No, a 12 or 13-year-old, like I said.
Yeah, fine. Either way, the CPO ordered 4 ODSTs to fight a kid.
You got it all wrong, okay? Because those 4 ODSTs were like lambs to the slaughter.
What, John outfought them?
No. It was way worse.
As he tells it, the ODSTs did as they were ordered. They surrounded John, and one of them swung. What happened next, Petrosky says, defied explanation.
If you fret the fall of Reach, you know what's going on.
It sounded awful. Because they weren't like punches, they were like rapid fire explosions. Okay, I was across the gym, but I heard it. It was sick. Like meaty cracks in a drum roll. It was just like...
One of the ODSTs sustained a single body blow that instantly stopped his heart, killing him. Another trooper only took 1 shot from John as well. A punch that caved in the man's face. 2 fatalities, 1 ODST with a cracked pelvis and 1 with a shattered spine. That guy never walked again. No one had to break up the fight. It was over in less than 5 seconds. Wait, he killed them?
What he did was impossible.
What do you mean impossible? Like how?
Like not human, all right? Like he was genetically augmented.
So you're telling me that someone had augmented John? Someone had genetically augmented a child?
Yes.
Okay.
No?
Right. You think I'm lying?
I believe
right.
That's what you honestly think you saw, but...
Look, here's the thing, Ben. I don't care if you believe me or not. This makes no difference in my world. I was there and you were somewhere else. So... You're going to go write your little military cheerleader article, and I'm going to sit here and drink beer. So, good luck.
Petrosky left me with a bad taste in my mouth. Now, it's no shocker that Spartans go through a few augmentations and upgrades, but those are fully developed adults. Could a 17-year-old, probably still growing, even survive that kind of procedure? It seemed horribly risky, and what if what Petrosky was saying was true? And John was only 13. Well, that was one hell of an accusation to make, the ethical implications of which were nauseating. I was still thinking about it the next day when Ellie Bloom's name popped up on my call list. I'd let her listen to a rough version of my first episode, and she had feedback for me. I didn't want to risk anyone listening in, so I let the call go, then hit her back on ChatterNet.
Well, 2 things.
Okay.
2 major things.
Okay, yeah.
That boxing coach?
Dion Govender, yeah.
He's a liar.
Okay. How is he lying?
There wasn't any boxing at the high school.
How do you know for sure?
Because there wasn't any boxing on the entire planet.
She'd said they'd outlawed it forever ago, after a kid got injured. Afterwards, there was a long-standing controversy over how youth boxing was illegal, but no one seemed to care about all the grav-ball concussions kids were getting. Regardless, by the turn of the century, she tells me nobody really boxed in Eridanus 2 anymore. She even gut-checks me, telling me to go ahead, ask anybody from the colony. They'd tell me the same thing.
And there sure as hell wasn't a league for kids to do it at the high school. That's like saying there was a gun range at the toy store. It just didn't happen. And the other thing, those kidnappings by rebels in Elysium also didn't happen.
Hold on. I know that's not true. You're wrong. Okay, the insurrection had a well-documented presence in Elysium.
Yeah, they did, politically. They worked to influence local policy. It got tense. There was occasional violence, but nobody was abducted. We lucked out. It was peaceful. That's why Elysium was refugee central. So boxing coach, total liar.
I needed to verify what she was saying, but I had the gnawing sense she was telling the truth again. But what did this mean? If she was right and none of that happened, the whole story was wrong. And terrifyingly, that would mean someone had fabricated all of it. I needed explanations from my previous sources, and I needed them now. I tried to reach Dion, the boxing coach, no response. Gabriella Dvorak, the lieutenant who liberated John, in the field, unreachable. So I tried detainment survivor Thomas Wu. He answered.
Hello?
Hi, Thomas?
Who is this?
Yeah, I'm sorry to call so late. Is it late there? I just need to ask you something really quickly.
Okay.
I had no idea what I was going to ask. Okay, do you know for absolute certain that Elysium suffered the same fate as your town?
Yeah, I told you that.
I know, but Thomas, I spoke to people who were in Elysium, and they said that wasn't true. Now, look, I know you went through a lot, but I want to know the truth.
Okay.
Do you know, for absolute certain, that Elysium City was under the violent control of insurrectionists?
Look, what I told you before, that is the best I can remember.
No, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, but I don't believe that. You remembered it all perfectly. You rattled off the name of every single safe haven city in that region, and you only hesitated once. I was completely making this part up. I was going for broke. You only hesitated where you would have said Elysium City, right?
I mean, look, I don't know for sure.
But Elysium wasn't captured by the insurrectionists, was it?
Hey, what are you, defending them?
I'm definitely not defending...
You know, after what they did, you're going to defend them? They left us locked up for weeks. They let all those people just die. And they did that all over the outer colonies. I mean, what does it matter if it was Elysium or somewhere else after everything that they did?
Thomas, look, I'm sorry. I'm sorry that I have to bring it up.
I just want peace of mind for my family. That's all I want. It's just...
Wait, I don't understand. How does lying about insurrectionists in Elysium buy you peace of mind for your family? At that moment, Thomas suddenly seemed to become entirely lucid, and his tone changed completely.
I shouldn't be talking to you.
Wait, Thomas, hold on.
I can't. Leave us alone.
I suddenly became lucid myself, with a single awful realization. That entire conversation had just taken place over Waypoint. Anyone could have been listening.
Yeah.
Please join me for the next episode of Hunt the Truth.
Well, nothing but conspiracy theories going on at this point. But either way, this video has got to be the longest I've uploaded so far. A record of at least 28 minutes. So, yeah. The Hunt the Truth campaign is the most confusing thing of 2015 so far. Mostly consisting of the trailer part, but the story behind the, Benjamin doing the interviews and everything is pretty interesting, and I'm gonna keep on doing the whole reaction thing. I think it said it's gonna go until, about sometime in E3 2015, where we'll finally get to see what the campaign of Halo 5 looks like. That'll be interesting. Also, April 25th is my birthday. I'm gonna be 17, and on Saturday I'm going to be uploading another video, but it's going to be a trailer for something. Pretty sure you already know what it is. But other than that, see you next video. The next video will be episode 4, of course, which will probably be released the same day as this. Who am I kidding? It will. So thanks for watching, see you next video, and #BreakTheUglies.